Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
The long-running, rude and crude Twisted Metal games have shifted gears and become a live-action streaming series for Peacock, dialing up the gory gallows humor to 11 for an enjoyably loopy trek through a Mad Max-style dystopian America. It's crazy, crass, and downright impolite, with a surprising amount of heart. It's a buddy comedy, social commentary, and hilarious blitz all in one. Not everything lands. A lot is thrown at the screen, and many jokes, both good and less than, are given their day in court. The overall laugh ratio is high, however, and the pure lunacy of the premise makes for a very compelling journey. For someone who's never played the games, the show is fun as hell. Will it work for longtime fans? Of course, though Twisted Metal is very much designed to attract and entertain the masses, having fleshed out and created a workable sandbox for its characters. Sweet Tooth isn't the only aspect of the game to make the jump to Peacock, but he's kind of the only one that works. It's almost as if the credo here was, in what world can this psycho clown exist? Most other instances of game characters coming in feel like a square peg, round hole situation, though it's not so clunky that it'll take you out of the story. It's just that the vast and silly Badlands backdrop that's created for the series is far more interesting and entertaining.
So if I'm here, then the exit is... Oh, they have a foot locker.
If game fans are going to get an extreme high from seeing Miranda Watts driving Twister, then it's all good. For someone unfamiliar with the franchise players, other than the lasting iconography of Sweet Tooth, it's just apparent when a story detour feels less organic because of the game. All that aside, Twisted Metal is way more focused on the jovial job at hand and the wicked, silly cross-country carnage brought about by Anthony Mackie, Stephanie Beatriz, and, in a joint performance, Samoa Joe and Will Arnett.
Well, aren't we a tall glass of water? Me? I'm more of a Hawaiian punch!
Wrestling fans who only know avid gamer Samoa Joe through his stoic ring persona are in for a heck of a time, as he wonderfully embodies Sweet Tooth. Yes, it's Arnett's voice that you'll hear, but the performance is largely Joe's. He's the one interacting with the rest of the cast on camera and fully embracing the physicality of Sweet Tooth's wild mood swings.
Do you love the silver-haired god? Don't lie to me!
Mackie plays a fun-loving dystopian courier who's named himself John Doe due to not being able to remember his childhood before the world's collapse. And since we all know Mackie as Sam Wilson, it's fantastic to see him play a doofus. John Doe is definitely a hero and more than capable behind the wheel, but he's also a flawed bonehead. This not only plays against the persona Mackie has forged in the MCU, but also the Mad Max aesthetic itself. Plus, Twisted Metal effectively weaves in heavier themes of class warfare, racism, and police brutality, making for even more of a subversive swerve. Some of the crucibles that Beatriz's initially silent car thief Quiet endures are fiercely traumatic, as the storytelling skills of showrunner Michael Jonathan Smith and his crew, as previously evidenced in Cobra Kai, blend several disparate tones into a successful through line. It's not seamless, since these styles naturally battle each other, but Twisted Metal still pulls it off.
Why won't you talk?
Having lived his entire life outside of walled-up megacities, John is offered the chance of a lifetime by Nev Campbell's city boss, Raven. Complete a pickup and delivery mission and get a comfy spot inside the wall, complete with swanky apartment and that most coveted of post-apocalyptic commodities, soft toilet paper.
3-ply?
On the drive from New San Francisco to New Chicago, John makes a bizarre frenemy of lavish Las Vegas showstopper Sweet Tooth, while also getting mixed up in a fatal feud between Quiet and Church's Agent Stone, a former police officer obsessed with using deadly force to clean up the Badlands. A notable game character, Stone is great as a roaming antagonist, though it's mostly due to all the fresh textures and extra backstory provided. Again, the game's thin characters are given heft here. Quiet, which is not her real name, isn't from the games, as far as we know. It's a blast to hear Beatriz's voice in a way that differs from her two most prominent roles to date, Brooklyn Nine-Nine's Rosa Diaz and Encanto's Mirabelle. Twisted Metal shines brightest when Beatriz finds alarmingly cool chemistry with Mackie, embracing some absolute bozo humor with their reluctant, bickering, will they won't they pairing, and having them craft common goals from their very different priorities.
Why won't you talk? Why won't you talk? Why won't you
Why
talk?
do you talk so much?
This mouth has gotten me out of a lot of sticky situations.
Twisted Metal won't be for everyone. There might even be an inclination to trash it solely for existing. But if you give in to vulgar madness, you'll find great reward. Out of Season 1's 10 episodes, there are a couple that struggled to click. One's featuring game characters played by the usually great Chloe Fineman and Jason Mantzoukas. Though overall, the show does a great job of providing us with episodic TV with encapsulated stories that doesn't feel like a stretched out movie. As the jokes fly, there are doozies and duds, but the goofy energy present here is always off the charts. You'll guffaw and groan, though definitely more of the former.
This never happened to me before. Really? Yeah.
Twisted Metal is absurd and hilarious in exactly the ways that you want a dystopian Cannonball Run to be. Yes, it matches the game's crude humor, but mostly it springboards from there and creates its own dark and warped wasteland sensibilities. During the backstretch of the season, there's a little bit of joke fatigue, but the demented tapestry presented here, grown from the seeds of the games and expanded into something workable as an ongoing series, is delightful. Mackie and Beatriz play characters you root for, but also love to see get into impossible situations. Meanwhile, Church, Samoa Joe, and Arnett provide the order and chaos out on the open road, making for a believable powder keg of violence at all times. This show is so dumb, as only clever people could achieve. For more Twisted Metal, check out our interview with Samoa Joe and Will Arnett about bringing Sweet Tooth to life. And for everything else in TV, games, movies, tech, and comics, stick with IGN.